Okay, guys. Good evening, good evening, good evening. You all are welcome today to this economics class with your celebrity teacher. Yes, so today we'll be talking about international trade. We will be discussing about international trade. Now, international trade is also known as foreign trade. International trade is also known as external trade. What then is international trade? International trade, it is the buying and selling of goods across international boundaries. The buying and selling of goods across international boundaries. Now, for us not to get confused, we have internal trade and we have external trade. Let's vividly look at the differences between internal and external trade. When we talk about external trade and internal trade, we talk about the distance between internal and external. Now, when it is internal trade, for example, buying goods from Yaoundé to sell in Douala, that is internal trade. Then external trade, buying goods from Nigeria to sell in Cameroon. So when you look at the distance, there is a longer distance when it involves external trade, and there is a shorter distance when it involves internal trade. Then we also talk about currency. In external trade, two currencies are involved. In internal trade, just one currency is involved. Then we also talk about political organization. That is the political system. There are different political systems when it comes to international trade, and in internal trade there is just one political system. Then we talk about language. International trade has many languages. Internal trade, we have just a single language. And currency too. Internal trade, we have a single currency. For example, trade within Cameroon, we have just the franc CFA. While trade between Cameroon and Nigeria, we have what? We have the naira and we have the francs CFA. So those are the simple differences between internal trade and external trade. Now, let's focus on external trade, which is foreign trade, international trade, trade across international borders. Now, in international trade, there are some advantages. Like what? It leads to an increase in technology. It leads to the consumption of a variety of goods and services. It leads to what? The creation of job opportunities. And it also leads to what? It leads to an increase in government revenue. Now, international trade also has what? It has the disadvantages too. International trade has disadvantages. For example, it leads to what? Over exploitation of the natural resources of a country. It leads to what? It leads to the importation and the consumption of harmful goods. Also, it leads to what? It leads to over dependence. Those are the disadvantages of international trade. Yes, international trade has what is known as principles. There are two principles of international trade. We have the principle of absolute advantage and the principle of comparative advantage. Principle of absolute advantage. This principle states that a country should specialize in the production of a good in which she has an absolute advantage. That is, she can produce more of that good more than her trading partner, giving the same amount of resources. While